All right, good morning, everybody. How are y'all doing? We're moving into what, mile 19 of this marathon panel? And how many of you wish you hadn't gotten that extra slice of bacon? For me, I didn't have the bacon. I've been sitting over there drinking coffee, so I got to tell you, I am wired at this point. So I don't know whether that's good for y'all or not, but let's just see what happens. So this is going to be fun. I'm Greg Martin. I'm the Deputy Chief Engagement and Dissemination Officer from the Patient-Centered Outcomes Institute. So how many of y'all are familiar with us? Quick show of hands. All right. When I first started doing this gig about 5 years ago, usually there was one person that would kind of raise their hand, so I guess the message has gotten out there pretty well. So y'all probably know that we are an independent nonprofit organization. A common misconception is that we're another federal agency, which we're not. Though we are solely funded by the federal government, we fall outside of the government. We're governed by a 21-member board of governors that represents pretty much every sector of the healthcare universe. We even have nursing quite ably represented on that body by a colleague of yours, Dr. Deborah Barksdale, who some of you may know from VCU now. She also is one of my bosses. She is the chair of the Engagement, Dissemination, and Implementation Committee. So we have a very strong, very effective nursing voice leading the Institute in that capacity, and helping to keep us focused on our key remit, which is to fund comparative clinical effectiveness research, and to do so in a way that focuses on the real-world evidence needs of patients, their family members, and the clinicians that care for them. So our main focus, again, is comparative clinical effectiveness research. So we're interested in funding research that meets several criteria. These are the criteria that funding applications that come to us are judged on. So the impact of the condition on the health of individuals and populations, the potential for the study to improve health care and outcomes, the technical merit, so the methods, because they matter, and patient-centeredness and patient and stakeholder engagement. Now those last two I'll talk to a little bit more because those are two concepts that are frequently confused. We've seen a lot of confusion around these when applications come to us. Now patient-centeredness is really about, does this project aim to answer questions and concerns and find the desired outcomes that matter to patients? Is it addressing what matters to patients? Patient and stakeholder engagement is about, are you having patients at the table as your partners in the research project? Do you have stakeholder representatives of interest that are proximal to the topic at hand? Are they at the table with you as partners as well? Now, we expect to see these folks with you through the life cycle of the project, from helping to identify the topic, to helping to refine your research question, to helping to identify what are the comparators, to helping you figure out what are the outcomes that should be measured, to helping with site selection, participant recruitment, helping with the little course corrections that you need to make as any project goes along, helping you analyze the data, and of course, at the end of the day, helping to draft the findings, because PCORI, unlike many others, we require both your draft final research report. We also expect a clinician version and a lay version of your findings. So having these folks at the table is critical in helping to make sure that you can complete that task effectively. And of course, if you have all these folks at the table with you, engaged as partners, what happens? They're there to be your ambassadors for your findings, to help get them disseminated effectively and hopefully into practice. So let's do another quick show of hands to get the blood moving again. How many of you, when you finish a project, want it to sit on a shelf in somebody's office and never go into practice? Not a single one of you. We don't want that either. So while it's great to be published and it's important to be published, and that's the coin of the realm in academia, what we want is stuff that's going to make a difference. That's why engagement is so important. That's why patient-centeredness is so important. But as I mentioned a second ago, methods are important as well. You got to have the methods there. So we actually have as well a methodology committee. So these are 19 methodologists that get together. It's also a nurse-led organization for us. So your colleague, Dr. Robin Newhouse from Indiana, she is the chair of our methodology committee. So our method standards fall into these 11 broad categories. You can find the report on our website. You can also find a lay version of the report, so that way your patient and stakeholder partners can understand the methods as well. To help push forward knowledge and learning about the methods and to help you as you create your applications to us, hopefully, we have some modules online that are also accredited for continuing education units. So how many of you need to gather CEs throughout the year? Why don't you go ahead and get some CEs while you figure out how to do these methods that are important to PCORI applications? So go to our website, you can find them there. And we also have some stuff on engagement. As I mentioned, engagement is a key component of applications to PCORI. We believe it helps influence the research to be relevant, useful, patient-centered. It helps to establish that trust and legitimacy in the findings, and to encourage the successful uptake and use of research results. To help folks along and to help us, frankly, we looked at the healthcare sector and tried to figure out who are the stakeholders. At True North there, at the very top, you'll see patients and consumers. Of course, you have to have them with you. There's caregivers and family members of patients. There's clinicians of varying stripes. There's patient and caregiver advocacy organizations, because those organizations can bring a very different and very valuable perspective than your grassroots patient. Hospitals, health systems, other facilities, because I think a lot of you know that the facility you work in probably has a different perspective on patient care than you yourself as a clinician. Training institutions, policymakers, industry, insurers or payers, purchasers or employers, these are all important voices. Now, you don't have to have all these folks with you at the table for every project, but again, it's about identifying those that are proximal to the topic at hand. Think about who this issue that you want to address affects. Who are the various folks that can provide valuable input on what the patient experience is with this condition? And what is the evidence that they need? How can your research address the evidence they need to make better health decisions and help patients stay healthier and receiving care that accords to their preferences? So to help tie all this together, we developed an engagement rubric. And again, we have this document online. It helps provide some hints and tips. The coffee is speaking there. Some hints and tips on how it is that you can go about engaging these non-traditional partners in your research. We also have continuing education modules built around the engagement rubric. We also have sample engagement plans on the website. So we have a bunch of different resources to help you through this somewhat unique part of PCORI funding. Now for the funding itself, we have several different methods that you can, or different vehicles that you can access. If you go to our website, you'll see right there a tab that says Funding Opportunities, and that'll show you the upcoming, currently open, and the closed opportunities. Closed opportunities I always encourage folks to look at, because if you want to know where we're going, it's good to see where we've been, and that provides you some helpful guidance. The several different vehicles that we have available, one we refer to as our broad awards. These are for typically up to about 3 years, up to about $1.5 million. These are investigator-initiated awards. Those come out twice a year. And we just had an LOI cycle close about a week and a half ago for those, so it'll probably be about another 4 months or so until we open that one again. Twice a year, we also have what we call the pragmatic clinical studies. These are larger awards for up to 5 years and up to $10 million in direct cost. These can be investigator-initiated, but we also have a handy appendix in every funding announcement that indicates topics and questions that are of high priority to PCORI. And then finally, every so often, we issue targeted funding announcements. We're a stakeholder-driven organization. We're constantly seeking good topics from the field, from our stakeholders, from patients, on what they think needs to be studied. So we have advisory panels that help us prioritize. We explore these topics in depth with our stakeholders, and we periodically draft targeted funding announcements that can come out anytime. They may be on cycle, they may be off cycle. We've addressed things like treatment of uterine fibroids, treatment of asthma in African American and Hispanic Latino populations. We've looked at clinical management of hepatitis C, clinical management of sickle cell disease, treatment options for chronic low back pain, a whole range of different topics we've addressed through this mechanism. So if there are specific topical interests that you have, keep an eye on that as well. And of course, the best way to keep on top of all of this is sign up for our newsletter. We pump out lots of information on what we're doing. We're trying to do a lot in a very short period of time here. And hopefully y'all can come along with us for the journey. So I think that's a little bit over, with apologies to Dr. Yoder. And I will turn it over to my colleague and look forward to any questions you may have. So thank you.